Okay, we've got a very exciting new option available in JCB. Make sure you're on version 2.9.3 for this. We're at beta release now. It's already working, and the tutorial is made during this period, but as soon as we've got this tested and stable, we'll push it out. I need to make this tutorial now because those who test it need to know how it works. Okay, basically in the past this area, field types, has got all the field types that Joomla has by default, and you could extend it by adding other field types that Joomla already has, but except this one field called custom. This field has always been a jack of all trades, if you will. It can do basically almost everything because it can extend 3 types of fields, and you can then dynamically generate the input values. So if you were to open the custom field, you would see it has a option here called extends, and it has 3 options here: list, radio, checkbox. And those are the 3 JForm field subclasses that can be extended with this custom field. The default is usually list, and that always works well. Now what we've done is we've broken out of the box. I made a previous tutorial explaining how custom fields work, and also how you could expand it by adding files and making changes to the core, which I realize is not a good practice. And so we took some counsel, and we've decided to add the option to expand custom fields inside JCB without touching the core. And I trust that this will be very powerful for some of you that want to go beyond the default. So let's see how this works. Basically, all of these field types that already exist map back to Joomla field types. Now, except this one, as I said. This one has special features. It actually creates a new file which can be then overriding the default Joomla field types. Now, first of all, the field types are declared in the library area of your Joomla core. So let's quickly look at that. So if you look at your Joomla website, you've got your root here, administrator, components, and then you got libraries. Then you have a Joomla folder at the moment in Joomla 3, and it has a form folder with a fields folder, and here's a whole lot of fields. Then there's also a source folder, also again with a form folder and a fields folder and a whole lot of other fields. All of these fields extend some other field. So you can see that here, for example, JForm field list is being extended by content lang field. Many of these field types are Joomla core related within the source, whereas the others, these within Joomla, are basically the default fields that you see mapped out in JCB. Now we are extending this field, which extends the form field. So you have basically JForm field list that is being extended, and then we also extending the radio field, this one, JForm field radio, and we are also, so that you can see it is extending various field types. So this is the place where you can come and say, you know what, I want to create my own custom field, like beyond what JCB's custom field already stands for. So for our example, we can take note, for example. Let's say you want to expand on the note field type. So you can come here and you can look at all its values, the get label, and the get input. Now the get input, it should be this, okay. But the get label, you might want to override this. In that case, I mean, you could take any of these field types, literally any, and you can take any of these methods, and I'll show you now how to use this to write your own custom field type right in the JCB interface. And you're no longer limited to what we have done. You can use any one of these and make your own field type. Now, there's a difference between a field type and a field. And I know in my initial tutorials I sometimes may have left a little confusion there, but just that you know, there's most certainly a difference between a field type and a field. A field is what ends up being used in your component, as a field type is what is used to build the field. Okay, enough of that. We can extend meter, we can extend color, we can really extend anything. I think to give it the best demonstration, note won't be ideal. I think I should instead use list. I know list already exists, but list has get input, and it has get options, and it has add options, and it has multiple options. And currently in JCB you can only target the get options area. You cannot override the input area, and you cannot override the add options area. So having said that, we can now actually do that. So let's show you how that's done. First of all, we go to custom component type, field type, custom, we open it. Now we decide what are we going to do here, what are we going to extend. Now there's only one value that you must set right. Well, there are a few, but this is the one that trips the switch, okay, and it's this name value. You can call it anything you like, but it must have an @ sign in it. So you could say, for example, list at, and maybe it's about some kind of list that you're going to be using often, and it has a specific purpose. For now, I'm just going to call it mine. It's just simple. So list at mine. This at doesn't need to be between words. It can be in the beginning, it can be in the end, it can be anywhere, but it has to be there. This little at is what makes it different from every other field type, and what makes JCB know that this is a custom field beyond the normal custom. So basically tells JCB this is your own custom field. You could keep this values as it is. You could take values away. I would suspect that there are some values that you can't remove, like the type, the name, the label, and this will depend on what field type you're extending on, right? Most of the time the type must always remain, because this must be a unique value that eventually gets used if you're using a custom field. If it's a custom list field, this cannot be list. Remember, Joomla already has a list field option type, field type. So you must use unique names. So this could be, my list, like that, but it cannot be list. Okay. Now, if it's adjustable, you can tick this. If it's not adjustable, leave it unticked. And all this, you can change the description here. You can do whatever you like. I'm going to leave a lot of this right the way it is, because it sort of makes sense. Here, we need to leave list there, and we need to tell those who maybe have staff or other using JCB in-house. So the options are only list, yeah, because you are extending list. You want this to work in list. You might want to use the table placeholder, component placeholder, the view placeholders. That's all up to you. You can read here how to access the table value in your PHP that you're going to add. I'll show you a little of that again, but just keep that in the back of your mind. One little reality though is the button option do not work here. If you want it to work, you must manually code it, so best remove it. Okay, so I'm not going to need all of these above values because I'm going to, well, you know what, let me leave this one and maybe, yeah, remove the rest. Just to show you how it works. We can remove this. I'm going to leave prime. Now, you see that there is this type PHP. Every one of these values represent a line in the code. And this value here is what's going to show you in the interface what the code is for. So basically, you need to update this area for your new implementation. Now, all the options available, because obviously you might want to have different areas for different code, right? So let me show you how the code gets taken into the compiler. So just before we do that, all of this actually ends up in the value called type PHP. Okay, even 19, all of these values, it's basically line 4, line 5, line 6. You need to add each line on its own number. You can't have a, just like this. You can't do that, multiple lines. This area only takes one line at a time. That was unfortunately how we ended up doing it. It's not a problem though, because you've got a lot of room here. You can add as many lines as you like. Okay, so before we continue with this area, let me go show you what is available, because obviously, like I said, this is one position. So let's show you that. JZB now has a new value called PHP field array. The first option is the one which we looked at already. This basically is referring to, let me show you, to type PHP, this value here, because it doesn't add anything. Value A means type PHP A. So this value represents that value. And so it goes on all the way to N and then X. So there's also a X PHP type. So you have basically 16 fields, input fields available in your custom field area. You could target the normal basic default one, which now looks like this, right? You saw that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Or you can add a second value, make it A, and then you have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and as many as you need lines. So you have a PHP A, a PHP B, C, all the way, and that's all the available placements. Now I'm gonna add 3 so you can see it being demonstrated. We're gonna use the first and then these 2. You could use any. There's no real it's just what is available at the moment. I thought 16 is way more than that we need, but okay, let's say we want to target just 3 areas in this because we've got to override certain methods, and maybe this value is being done dynamically by not this value, and obviously what is being extended is being done dynamically. So that means you only need to target this, either this area or this area. Okay, that's the areas you might want to target. Okay, so now you can use these various values to target those various areas. And to show you exactly how that will work out, let me demonstrate it to you in the interface. So first of all, I'm going to choose this type PHP to override the method to get the field options. So I want to actually add the comment to that. So I'm going to start by replacing that with the comment, beginning of the comment. The second one, and I'm copy pasting this. So just the second one. Then I want a little space there. So just paste that in there. And then the next comment line, which is basically the return value. Then the next one is, I'm going to add this, basically copied this from Joomla. I'm just leaving that there just for my own understanding. And then close the comment area. And then open the method, which is a protected method. Get options. Now, I don't think I want to have this protected. I'm going to make this public, and if you public at the moment, and that is because like I just explained in the previous tutorial of custom fields, this function, this method is being called to populate many selections across JCB. Now I see that the new list method since Joomla 3, if we look at that, since Joomla 3.7, it has this class called get, _get, a magic class, to actually get the options. And I should actually update JCB to target this method instead. And then, yeah, that will be the better way to go about this. But at the moment it doesn't do that, and so it's just best to just make this public for now. Okay, so I'm making it public. Then I am adding the opening brace for the method. For now, because I'm just demonstrating this, I'm going to add a little comment inside of the method, and then I'm just going to close the method and remove all other lines. So basically I have 10 lines. Now to make sure that this is what shows up in the UI, I'm going to replace all these notes with the same, needs to be the same for this collection of code. So we have our first collection or method then set. Now the second one, before I continue, because I know something can go wrong here, so I'm going to save as copy. We opened the custom field to start with. I'm going to call this my own custom list field. Okay, and maybe just paste that in here as well and save as copy. So now I have a new field type called list at mine, and basically has these values including this. Now I can over here add a placeholder 1 2 3 com underscore component 1 2 3. This is a placeholder which whatever value the user puts in here will be updating this placeholder over here. So I'm just going to do that just to show you how that happens. And I'm also going to explain to you where this comes from and how you can expand on this. Okay. Okay, so now we want to do a second one, we're going to call this type. It must be type PHP always. Then a underscore 1, because this is the first line of that. So again, I'll start by just opening the comment and add a few lines here. We're going to need a few of them, and then I'm going to add the next comment line. And you see that every time I'm also adding the tab space here, because I want this to look, you know, like it was coded. So I'm adding the tab spaces in, and we're just adding these comment lines first. Okay, now we're gonna basically close the comments, and now I'm going to open the method and its brace. Now I wanted to get the parent HTML as well, so I'm just putting a little note there and then grabbing the parent HTML, and then another note that sort of tells everyone using this type that they can now expand with their own code. And then I'm going to leave a blank one, which is just for them easy to start typing, and then I'm going to close the method. Now I need to go up here and I have to copy this type A and make it 2, 3, 4. Of course you need to do all this just once, and then this type is reusable. So you could, after you have done this, you can reuse this type over and over. So you need to think generic. You need to think, don't make it too type specific. If you do, you're going to have to make many. Try to make things that easily can be reused. So that's sort of just a little caution ahead of time, because I know that, you know, some of the field type you want to make it for a specific project. Well, think about the option of making it to be reusable in multiple projects. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna use that first comment line to just give us, okay, wait, let's make it more than that. That first line including the second, like that. I'm going to use that as the, yeah, the identifying note. It needs to all be the same for this PHP A code group. Now you could do a PHP B, C, as I showed you earlier. There is basically, wait, there it is. Basically all these available, B, C, D, and you basically just need to add it in front of this PHP type, A, and so forth. Don't exceed those that are available at this point. If you want to see again what is available, you go to the Joomla component helper class. This is the Joomla component helper class, and in it we have a add a PHP fields allowed. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna just do this too. I mean, you get the point. We got this, the first one, which is the basic default, and then A. And you want to set this values adjustable and mandatory. Obviously it's not translatable, so we can just make this to be adjustable. If you make it mandatory, it might not come out right, so just leave that unticked and adjustable. Okay, save and close. If we now go to a field and we create a new field, and we will see if we go down to list, there's now list at mine. It loads that settings that we've set, and it loads two areas. You see, methods to get the import mark generic, that's the comment, and here is the code ready for you to just start typing in that specific part that you want to change, this area here. And here again is the one for the other, the get options, and again it also starts with that. So I'm going to add this placeholder just in here as well, just for demonstration. And then I'm not going to add any code. I mean, you need to know how to do that. You need to know how to add that code. Otherwise, just go back to the basic default custom field option. It has an amazing ability already. So this, I'm going to leave it my list. It simply makes sense. I'm going to also make this my list. And here I'm just going to say a label. And I'm going to leave the rest just default and save. Oh yes, need to add this at the top here, and also set the database value. Let's make it the varchar. Yeah, no, it's going to be more than enough. Okay. Whatever is making sense with the values that you're going to return from your get options, right? That's what you need. And then save and close, and you got your field, which basically is built on the list at mine. And now you can add it to a admin view quite easily. I'm just going to dump it to the demo admin view. Let's put it left in the details area, make it number 1, get a label, shows you the field type that is extended, and I think that's enough. Let's save and close, and let's compile, see what happens. Before we do, I want to now go and show you a little bit of what happens in the compiler, so that you can understand some of that dynamic placeholder concept I've been pointing at. Okay, so we're here. If I go up, there's a method here in the Joomla JCB 2.9.3 called set custom field type file, and it has a replace array. The replace array gets the table value if it's set. If it's not set, it's an empty value. And it also gets the component value and adds it to underscore component, and checks if it's there and makes it safe and everything. And then it has the component going on uppercase, views, and view plural, and these are all replacement placeholders that when we start here at the bottom, if we start loading the code, we are actually using over here the replace value to actually update the PHP. So all those placeholders dynamically get updated. And as you can see, we start the PHP type, and we are loading it one upon another, and again add it eventually to a placeholder. It's a little bit maybe not necessary to explain all this, but basically it is building the values for the file and is adding it there. So let's see how that file came out. So I'm just going to compile it here and then install it. And then let's quickly go to demo, looks new, and then we'll see that it says there a label. Oh, we have a problem here. Well, of course, if we can open that, we have a few things to fix. So there's our fields area. There's my list, the custom field. So we see it is bringing in the list class. It's extending the list. It's calling it my list. Your options don't return anything. It's updated to demo component. See there. And here also your input. We didn't even return HTML. That's what we should have done. So this should. We must remember to return the HTML. We're going to save this. We could go back to JCB and just, make some change to that so we can see it all happen. And here, if we refresh this now, we'll see that there is the HTML for that area. Now let's tweak it a bit, right? I said I was not going to do much of that, but just so that you get sort of the hang of it. So I'm going to go back to the actual field types, go in here and just make a little fix to my field type, because I realized I need to help others do this right. I'm going to add two more fields. I'm going to just name them here 15, 16, and then make this 17. I'm also going to do, so I added basically remember the HTML, I've added those. I'm also going to do something like that in the first one. I'm going to add also 3 more fields here. One, just a little extra space. The other, remember the return options, and then here just return options. And I think I should add a little thing here. So now we have options array, build options, our little comment, and we need to add a few of these, 10, 11, 12. Okay, now also just move this comment to all of them. I know this is tedious, but this is really at the end of the day not that big of an issue, just to add these little things. Okay, so here we go. We've expanded it a bit, made it a more user-friendly, and save and close. Now let's go back to that field, add a label, and I'm going to click away from it, click like this one, and then save it, and then take it back to that one. We'll need to change a few things here. Again, just leave all defaults, and now you see it loaded the new improvements, and also here. So I'm just gonna, for our purpose, say we need to build the options, of course, in a specific way, and that's the code that you should know how to write. But just I'm going to add a little bit of custom script here, just option 1 and option 2. This obviously you can get these values from anywhere, but you need to load it into options with the JHTML underscore select option implementation, so that it loads everything correctly, and then return. Here I'm not going to make a change, just maybe let me just do something for for the fun of it, and add a little text here. Okay, this should work. So I basically added a little space and then that little bit of text to the input value. You can do a whole lot of things here if you know what you're doing. And let's compile and see that how it looks. Okay. So now if we refresh that, we have option 1, option 2, and here's our text. Hi there. That's how easy it is now to expand customly any type of field. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, please ask it on the forum. And just to quickly show you the file, that's how it came out, the file. So again, you got your extending the list. Because you left that value over here, where are we? Let's just look at that. You left this value over here to be list. You must always leave this extends. This is a must value. So the at value and this, and of course the type, the name, these are the values that you need to keep there. Because, and if you want to check it out in the, let me just go there, this get fields, you'll see that we are testing whether the extend value exists, and then we are coming down here and we're just testing this own custom is what that at triggers this value to exist. If you by accident leave the button there, we will leave you a note that the button is not supported in this area. And then we basically, the type is determined by custom. Okay, so that's not important. But over here, you see we use the extends value to update this to placeholders. And these two placeholders are what is used to populate this value here and that value there. So if you mess up with this extends value, it will mess up these two values. So you can see that it extends the JForm field, extends what you put in, list, radio, whatever of these field types you're going to extend. You need to make sure that this is the correct value that you add as an extends value. And then the PHP gets added here in the type PHP. And there's the type. The type is the name. Sorry, no. It is this value up here, this type value. That also must be there. So it's the name value, the type value. Of course, depending on what type of field you're extending, then you'll have a few of these. And then this extends value is a must. This prime PHP still functions just like it would in a normal custom field. You can read it here. You could leave that in or leave that out depending on yourself. If you left it in, it'll function the same way as in the custom field. So the placeholders that you can add here, we have component. Looking at our code in the compiler, just go there, is again we have the text and we have the ID and we have the code text and the code and the view type and the type, and these are the placeholders. Now they correlate to the custom field. So if you start, we close out here, go back to field types. If you start with a custom field, opening the custom field, you'll see that we have down here table, component, and we have field, value field. So if we look at this, there is, let me see, the value field and the key field, these two, is the name and the ID. So the value field and the key field, these two values you need to leave them like that, because then they will generate these placeholders. See, text and ID. So if we look at the code, we see there is a text and ID value, and they correspond to whatever the user puts in these values. So that's the field type. You might want to leave these placeholders in there, and as well as the component and the table. These view values are also useful, but they're not really particularly practical when it comes to extending your own custom field. But like I said, you can come in here, look at the code, make changes, run it, and here you could, well, over here you could do the var dump like that, and then just grab the replace array like that and save. Then compile your custom field wherever you've implemented it, and your own custom field. Then check all these placeholders. These placeholders, the B and the D placeholders, basically refer to those brackets and the placeholder that you see, these. And this basically refers to the HHH, these hashes there. So if you dump this replace array, you'll see the available placeholders that you could use in your code, dynamically updating values based on those placeholders. If you don't follow what I've explained, then maybe it's just best you don't worry about it. It can work without you using placeholders, so you can just dump these. So I would always say start with your custom, the default custom field type, and then save as copy. Give it a at mine or whatever you want, save as copy, and then start expanding on it and changing this. You see these codes, changing whatever it says here, but do ensure to add the at. If you don't, you just did this, you're going to break stuff, because custom is already there, and you want to make sure that JCP knows this is your own thing. So that at is important. And I think, well, that should be it. Happy own custom field creating.